can you talk about some of those moves and what the team might be planning to replace some of those players who were starters, maybe didn't pick up options on?
Yeah, I mean, there was some, anytime you say goodbye to players, it's a difficult situation. Um, but, we had a very difficult season. And so we had to look very closely at our current roster and how we can improve upon it. And with all the decisions that we made, our plan is to bring in players that are going to perform at a better level than the ones that no longer will be here.
And how far along are you in that process?
I mean, our season ended early, so we've put a lot of work and effort into it, and we're very, very close to announcing some of those roster moves, but we also have a good period of time before we start preseason, and we're working diligently every day to make sure we replace the players with players that are going to help us have a successful 2025 season.
Let's go to Hayden. We'll jump around. To just get into specifics, I guess two players on the list whose options were declined were Arriaga and Barrero.
Yes.
And so I guess I just wanted to ask about both of them specifically. And as far as Barrero, I guess what did you see, maybe more specifically, what didn't you see from him that led to this decision?
So I'll start out with Arriaga, and again, anytime you're talking about players publicly, I'm not going to be speaking in great detail, just out of respect for them. But in the case of Arriaga, he came in and did very well for us in the beginning, but his form, for whatever reason, really dropped off, and to such a level that we, as an organization, your coaching staff, front office, just made the decision that we would like to allocate those resources to a player that we believe that can do better in that position for us. So those are difficult decisions. I think for whatever reason he had a hard time dealing with going to the national team and actually not playing. I think that hurt him, and with his performances with us, especially when you look at how he performed earlier. So that was, that was a difficult decision. But when players are on good salaries, for our league, you really look hard at those players because you have to be consistently producing, and that's the name of the game. So that was the situation with Arriaga. In the case of Barrero, it's a difficult one. He's a extremely talented young player. Had an awful injury. I mean, he was just on the rise. And the thing you guys probably don't know is that his contract graduated from, he's no longer a U22 player, so he was going to have a really huge cap hit. So when you look at what his current contributions were post-injury, and then you look at some of his I would say, struggles a little bit off the field, and family. He wasn't able to have his family here because of visa issues and things like that. I think it wore on him. And when you look at the whole picture and you look at the money that's being allocated, for us it seemed, a difficult decision for us to say, what, we have to say goodbye to him and we'll use that money for other players.
Seth?
You mentioned bringing in some players. What positions are you particularly looking at, and especially like striker seems like something that was an issue last year at times, having depth there. Will you bring in a striker during this window?
Well, I mean, it's glaringly obvious where our weaknesses were, right? I mean, I don't need to talk about stats, but we know we have to do better defensively, so we will bring in defensive reinforcements for sure. We have to score more goals, so that means adding players in that part of the field. Also knowing that, we lost Chankalai, who is somebody that was, pegged to score, 10 to 15 goals just based on what he had done prior. So knowing that he's going to be coming back fairly early, we're hoping to have him back around April, hopefully a little bit before. We definitely have to get better in those two parts of the field, and that's where our main focus is.
Jeff?
Curt, just with the moves that you announced today, combined with really some of the moves you also made in the summer, you talk about adding significant pieces. How do you feel about where you are right now in terms of having those resources to go make the moves you want to make?
We created a lot of space, so we have room to do things. So we are, like I said, it's going to be a very active window for us. Our last window was, extremely active. This will be even more active. I mean, if you just look at the numbers, a third of our roster is going to be replaced. Obviously some of those players are supplemental roster players and other senior roster players, but we have to replace them. So you're going to see a very busy offseason, and we're very confident, very optimistic. Obviously, the front office and the coaching staff are continually aligned, and we're excited for the moves we're going to make, and we're excited to start a new season and to start it well. That was for us. That was a difficult thing for us. We started the season in a huge hole, so it makes things very difficult to get out of, and so we're plugging away, and we have a great team of people working on it, and we look forward to making those announcements when we're able to.
Time for a few more, guys. Go back to Seth here.
This team has a lot of talented young players. There's like rumors of Peyton Miller and Esmir and Noah Buck attracting interest. Are there interest in those players? Are there any serious bids that are coming into those players, those young talented players?
Well, the one thing we do have for sure is a lot of young players that are thriving. Our academy is just absolutely killing it. I went to the games 2 weekends ago. We played NYFCFC, and we won. Our 18s won 3-1. Our 16s won 4-0, and we continually, build up those programs through our pro pathway. So we have enormous talent. And the 3 players you mentioned, we've heard about potential rumors and stuff, but we don't have anything concrete that's come to us. And in the case of Peyton, he's not 18 yet, so we got time before offers come in for him.
Coming into this season, and I know today is future focused in a lot of ways, but just looking back a little bit on this past season, coming into this season, I know there were expectations to do obviously better than what you did, and so I guess, how would you characterize kind of what went wrong this year in a sense?
We did not achieve our goals. It's that simple. It was a very disappointing season. Obviously our fans feel it. But there's probably nobody more that feels it than us as front office, coaching staff, and players. So we fell short. And quite frankly, we don't point blame. It's all of us have to take responsibility. All 3. The way I look at it, there's the front office, there's coaching staff, and there's players. All of us collectively fell short. So I'm not a guy that spends a lot of time just worrying about the past, but having said that, we felt it and we feel it hard, obviously probably more than anybody, because that's our job. So it just, the way we talk about it is we use it as motivation to make sure that we do whatever we possibly can to put together the best roster that we can under the parameters that we have, and that we start the season well and have a season that we all can be proud of.
See one for Nick.
Yeah, I know, Curt, and over the past season, Caleb would talk about how a coach coming in, I'm sure you said the same thing, you really need 3 transfer windows to kind of make the team yours. Just with this being that 3rd window, with the changes that are being made, can you talk at all about what some of the goals are going to be for this coming season, what you guys are going to be aiming at once?
Our goal is to, we brought Caleb here to build a championship caliber team, and that's what our goal is. We want to be obviously a team that makes the playoffs and position ourselves to compete for championships. So nothing has changed there. I think often the difference, I think, it's an emotional, athletics are emotional, and there's times where in most cases the difference between winning and losing is very slight. We had opportunities this year where we were really close. We won 5 or 6 games, and we're like, you're thinking we're going to just be shooting up, and all of a sudden we get faced with a whole bunch of unfortunate injuries. So those things happen. But, our goal is to make the playoffs, and position ourselves at the end of the year that we can compete for a championship, but step by step.
Go back to Hayden.
So looking at, potential new signings and player additions in this part of the offseason, I guess to link to the other kind of recent news, how much of, I know the stadium is far from a thing, but obviously that was good news from the club's
Yes.
standpoint. How much of that are you able to use in your recruitment maybe to be like, hey, this is starting to come together. If you're here for a couple of years at this project, like, are you able to use that to sell players, or are you not quite there?
I mean, I'm not quite there yet, but that it's incredible news for us and for our organization, obviously for the city, and so, but it's it's a little down the line. So for us, we're like in the now right now, but certainly that will help us, in terms of attracting players. That anytime you have a beautiful stadium that's going to be coming online, that's an attractive thing for future players, potential players.
Definitely take a couple more. We'll go Seth, Jeff, and then back to Caleb.
There's some moves on the coaching front. Clint Pierre was announced that he's not coming back. Can you talk a little bit about that? And then also Andrew Farrell taking on this new role.
Yes.
I think it's a good one for him.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, so Clint had some, for personal reasons, decided not to. He ended up leaving. So we thank him for his contributions. He a big part of the pro pathway and the work that he did there for all those years, and then obviously the last year and some with the first team, class act, and we wish him well. I will say that our plan is to replace Clint with a set piece specialist. That's an area where we need to improve upon. So that's something that we're looking to add into our coaching staff. And then Andrew, I mean, it just goes beyond soccer, Andrew Farrell. It just does. He's one of these rare human beings that you look at, and he's able to change people's lives. I mean, he does life-changing things to people in the community. I mean, I remember going to the Unified, press conference and then the signings that we had, and talking to the families and how much he has impacted those people. It just blows you away. So he's a class act. He's so he was drafted by the club. It's just he'll be back for his 13th season. He'll be coaching when he has time in the academy to help our young players, which he's already spent time with. He's got this infectious, charismatic personality that I want in our club, because it's that enthusiasm and that knowledge that he can pass on. It will be outstanding, and that so positions him so that when he's ready to stop playing, he can be in our organization and in a coaching role. So certainly just an awesome opportunity to put him in this unique role and make sure that he stays a Revolution player.
I was going to ask it up for so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Caleb?
I got a question. I know you spoke already on the club's obviously feeling on the season, well, past season, 2024 season, on how it was a disappointing result, of course, and fans have also felt that same type of displeasure. Do you have a message directly to the fans on kind of to keep them on track and have them not lose hope ahead of like the 2025 season?
Yeah, it's just just like I said earlier, the lack of success that we had this year just motivates us more. There's a strong foundation to build on here. Our training environment is outstanding, and I do believe the start of the season will be very important. Not having Champions League and that extra burden, I think, will really help us. We have Caleb is a great coach, and he has the chance to be one of the best ever, and in order to do that is to win a championship. We all set goals. Sometimes we fall a little short, but like I said, the difference between winning and losing is slight. You see it all the time in professional athletics, where you have not the greatest season, then all of a sudden you put together this incredible run. And I'm extremely confident in our coaching staff, in the front office staff, in terms of finding the right players, to give our fans that hope. And we will be successful. I have no doubt in my mind. I'm unwavering in my belief, and like I said, in the players and in the coaching staff and in our process. And we're all self-reflective. We're all looking at ways to become better, and we're going to have a successful season.
I was about to wrap. I see two more hands. Let's wrap up with Seth, and then Hayden can go last here.
Sorry, you mentioned it, like how Slade could be from losing to winning. We looked at the LA Galaxy last night, and they made a lot of big signings, a lot of money that went into that. You guys have made a lot of money and a lot of big signings this past window, and I know when you were announced, Brian Below said that this is going to continue to be a big spending club. Do you anticipate making some big signings, big money signings, especially because you freed up some resources?
I mean, right now we currently have 2 U22 spots available. So those are areas this year that we'll likely make sure that we utilize. Whether or not we would use both of them in the first, January window is to be seen. Our owners are committed to us. They've shown that. They're great owners. So, and we've also created a lot of cap space. So we have the ability to make enormous change, and we're going to do that. The owners have always been committed to making sure that we have a strong field on the team.
Let's take our last question here, Hayden Bird.
So certainly, I think one of the most, I think everyone agreed, consequential players at the club is Giacomo Brioni. And this, he's a designated player on your roster, and going forward, I think. What have you seen from him this season? What more do you maybe need to see from him, and what do you see for his future at the club?
So Giacomo has one more year left on his contract. If you look at the 2023 season, if I'm not mistaken, he had 6 goals. Last year, he scored 9 goals. So he improved upon that. I thought the coaching staff did a good job with Giacomo and making sure getting him, back on track in terms of getting that form, because when he was signed at the club, he had come from an Austrian league where he had just, really killed it. Giacomo had a little bit of a downturn at the end of the year where he wasn't scoring, and that certainly, hurt us in terms of the results. The job for Giacomo is to come back and improve upon from 6 to 9 to what we want out of a DP forward, which is 12 to 15, 12 to 18 goals. That's kind of what you want to get out of a DP striker. So that's what we'll look for out of him next season.